programs, after-school clubs, comprehensive support, student support programs, and after-school transition. Other things that I highlighted last week that are untouchable are OPEB, our post-retirement liability, that's about $2.4 million. Out-of-district tuitions to career and technical education, vocational centers like the med school, charter schools, or special education placements where appropriate. That's approximately $3.5 million. And then also busing and textbooks for students in private schools, and that's approximately $500,000. Those are all untouchable. And so when we talk about potential cuts, those are areas that cannot be affected and will not impact, any cuts will not impact those students. So again, 97% of our budget is contract or basic education program related, and then we have those other non-negotiables. So the request tonight, again, for a local contribution is 1.408116. Tom, the last slide. And so we're asking you tonight is to make a worthy investment in our school districts. We always have the philosophy of students first. Educators are our greatest resource in our continuous improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Andre. We're going to continue with the meeting, and before we continue, I'd like to seek a motion to add an agenda add an item to the agenda that was overlooked and not discussed at last week's meeting, and that's the discussion around committee member Dee Pasquale's administrative proposal for the JFC. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The second item is the minutes from last meeting, which have not been prepared and distributed, so we will, at our next meeting, take up that item as well.
I make a motion to forward those minutes to the next meeting.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. So, our next item, discussion and action on the proposed 2017-2018 school budget. I'd like to start off by, again, thanking Dr. Andre for getting to the point and talking about what increases from last year's budgets are requested. However, I think that's at an expense because what's being overlooked is the fact that what we need to consider also is the entire budget, and not once have we talked about the number for the entire budget. And I think it's important for everyone to understand that what we're here to discuss is a budget that consists of expenses related to the general fund and debt service, which amounts to $55,082,744. With capital expenses and other governmental funds, the complete budget summary is $59,799,681. And I say that because a lot of work went into getting that number. The budgeting process that the school committee goes through is extensive. It's outcomes-based, a lot of detail, a lot of backup, and a lot of difficult decisions are made along the way to get to that number. And as we have been last meeting and so far, and we will be discussing mainly the increase, I think it needs to be in the context of the overall vision of what we have as a community for an education system which provides an excellent opportunity for all youth of all skills and all abilities. And I think that this budget that was put forth is a good budget. It was worked on very hard. I'd like to see discussion around supporting this entire budget and fully funding it. So, with that, I open the dialogue to my fellow committee members, and I'd like to promise that we will get to a point where there will be an opportunity for the public to comment, but I would like to provide the first opportunity for the committee member to explain the priorities and how we can work through this budget to support our school community.
Good evening. If I could add one thing to what I stated last week, and I may have erred in regards to full information. When I and the council in Warren, as I sit here tonight as a member of the JFC, reported that we set a number in our budget that would accommodate the full funding if this body were to pass such a number. I'm sorry if that statement gave the impact that at that time we were fully in support of that number. We sit here tonight as members of this committee, and I wanted it to be known what the body that I serve on also looked at, which would be if this committee were to fully fund, that would put Warren at a 4% tax increase, which would be the cap. So I just wanted to go on the record to make sure, because a few people had come to me and thanked me for fully supporting the process and the budget. It was a premature thanks, and it was based on information that I provided in case this committee decides to fully support the number. So I just wanted that to be clear to everyone. I hope I didn't mislead anyone in how I stated that.
Thank you, Mr. Gaspar. Anyone else, please?
Mr. Chairman? Not hearing a motion specific to your initial remarks regarding full funding, I'm going to actually make a motion to fund it a lesser extent. After careful consideration of the budget process and the JFC responsibilities, I'm going to make a motion to fund a $500,000 increase to local aid, which puts it at a number of $35,702,919, and that's a 2% increase in local aid.
I'll second the motion for discussion. Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. So, discussion, please.
Mr. Chair, the years that I've sat here, for the years that I've had children in the system and been able to watch the system flourish, it's been a very positive effect. The one action that I would like everyone to understand, I take to heart, is how a shared service with two communities, when it votes, takes the responsibility of not supporting something that could negatively impact one of those funding communities. And I think the opportunity for us to look forward on how to create new policy, of re-look at our organization and how we should move forward in the 21st century. There's been no review on the regionalized district. It's not built into the legislation. It's just there. There's been no review on how we fund the district. That could be through a few different avenues, like a joint tax district. There are opportunities out there. There are policies and procedures in place in other states that could help us level the playing field and bring a better accounting for the funding of our system. And I think that always looking at the ebbs and flows that the the two funding communities have to go through is so important. And we know that a good system takes hard work and dedication, but we also know that we need to be within our financial limits. And when somebody can do something just because they can, that may not make it right. And the 9 people that you see up here, I think, are starting to work in a cooperative effort and figuring out how we can continue and grow off the success of our children and work towards the success of the adults that participate in this system. Because we're all in this together, and I think that the chairman now of the school committee, as well as the chairman of this committee, and the dedicated adults and children understand the financial constraints, ebbs and flows, and the difficulties that we've had. So the tough part about being here isn't saying no to everyone or to every number. It's trying to say yes to everything we believe in and yes to what we can afford and hit that middle sweet spot. And I'm hopeful that this is the group of people that will be able to work towards that objective. Thank you.
I'd like to get some clarification on the motion. 2 numbers were put forth. The funding of a $500,000 increase in 2%.
Yes.
The current request by the school committee is for an increase to local aid of 408,116. Yes, and a $500,000 increase. I'm not quite sure if that aligns with the 2% exactly. So I just want clarification on that.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, I'm referring to a chart provided by the school district, I believe, or the Joint Finance Committee that breaks down different funding options. And what I see on my chart is a $500,000 funding increase correlates with a number of $35,702,919, which then on the reverse, yes, it's a slight percentage difference. I see your point. So I will correct my motion for 500,000. It's a slightly different percentage. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, thank you for that.
My error.
So can I have a second to that amended motion? Second. All in favor? I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yep.
You want to clarify the number first before I...
Yeah, we're not, I'm sorry, premature calling a vote. The motion is for an increase of $500,000 to the existing local aid, I'm sorry, the previous year's local aid to the Bristol Warren School District. 500,000.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, if I can clarify, the way that this sheet is presented is a bit confusing. So everyone knows what we're talking about here. We have a breakdown of the different funding options and the different correlating percentages here. So one side has got a dollar value and one side has a percent value. And it appears on closer inspection that the two sides don't exactly line up. There's a slight difference in the amounts on the two. My motion is for 2%, and I apologize. That is,
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
on this side, just for clarity, so last year's local aid was $35,202,919. So I believe if this is Steve's motion, 2% of that would be, or 2% increase in that would be $35,906,977.
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
That's what
Yep.
Apologize about that.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion
Yes.
to provide the local aid of $35,906,977. May I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Discussion.
I have a discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So I just want to follow up on Joe's remarks. It's no secret to, I think, everyone in the room here that this body and members of this body over time have not always seen eye to eye. I think it's very important, and I take that responsibility very seriously, as I know my colleagues here do, to change that relationship. And the relationship between the two towns that are supporting the school district is paramount to its success. Part of that, I believe, is taking our responsibility in recognizing the excellent work that the school administration and the school committee has done to fund and come up with a responsible budget, but then also correlate that with our responsibilities in our two communities. And I think my motion tonight represents what I believe is a realistic number that the two communities can afford, and also recognizes the school district with a significant increase over the prior year, which I believe they wholeheartedly deserve.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Just like to expound on Chairman DePasquale's comments as well as, he said we're in this together. This is my 5th year with the Joint Finance Committee. And as a community, last week and tonight, I'd just like again to thank the school administration, Dr. Andre, all the hard work of the teachers and the parents that support the system and the two communities. It's very frustrating because time has passed as a regional school district, the many obstacles that we all face together. And I keep saying together because we've been going back years of things that have been at the forefront that we have to address together. And that's at the state level, it's at the community level between the two towns, and it's between all of us and the hard work of whether it be the parents, the Bristol Warren Education Foundation, the faculty, the students themselves who aspire and just ascertain their goals through this education in our community. And I think with Mr. DePasquale's proposal is a starting point, but I think we have to be a little more vigorous. We keep saying we're going to have an open dialogue, but it's not until we do this together that we get this, and I'm going to be forward too. It seems like there's sometimes a dissension, and I really don't think we should have a dissension in such a wonderful community with a wonderful school system and the accolades that we keep getting year after year. So I just am a little enthusiastic to start this evening and going forward after this to really make accomplishments together of going forward as a joint finance committee, a school district, and a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Other discussion from the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too believe that last year, well, I don't know if this was said already, but last year was a challenging year, and it always seems to be a challenging year. There's always a reason to make it a challenging year. Last year was extremely difficult to make the decisions that we made, and I'm happy to hear that this committee is not willing to go down that road again. The proposal that has been made, if my math is correct, is a $704,000 increase to the school budget from the year before, which is less obviously than what they're asking for, but it is a significant change from the year before. I, for one, have privy to our local budget, and I'm going to stop right there for a second. Chairman Silva is very fond, and I agree with this, of pointing out that we're supposed to take off our hats as council people and sit up here and make a decision that is in the best interest of the students. I agree with that. The enabling legislation put me and actually the chairman of the Warren Council as a requirement here. So we have an interesting role of a dual role, and I believe we all do in some sense or another. I'm familiar with our local proposed budget that the administrator is going to be putting in front of us, the Bristol Town Council, and the increase is being proposed at a 0.46%. So the municipal end of things is it's a quarter of what's being proposed for the schools. So I think that's a wonderful reflection of how much work was done on a local level and how much commitment there is of this, not just Bristol, but the whole finance committee here, that how much we support the schools and how much we're willing to do locally on the municipal end and how much more we're willing to do for the schools. Thank you.
I just want to pick up where the chairman left off, Nathan. Well said, my colleagues on both sides, and I'm glad to see that we seem to be working together and the animosity is no longer there. You know, I look at the federal level and we're getting squeezed there money-wise, and it's coming down to the state level where the state is pulling out more money on the schools, which is turning to the local level where we feel that the schools are important and we want to fund them. So I think as a full body, we need to make sure that we're putting pressure on the state and on the federal level to make sure that they understand that funding schools are extremely important. Because looking at the presentation and looking at the teachers and the kids and the awards and the 91% graduation level, it's outstanding. What a community. What a community that both towns are making here. So I'm just so proud to be part of Bristol and part of the Bristol Warren Regional School System. So let's just keep doing the work and let's continue working together.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeting.
Mr. Chairman, speaking for myself as the newest member of the Warren community, serving on the council and now on the Joint Finance Committee, I know I share that same situation with the Chairman Tiska, and my greatest hope in this evening and the result of passing the budget tonight was that we would see greater goodwill between our two communities, and that we would come out of this all feeling like we have built a new foundation for our relationship. And we do have such pride in our school system, and we have such high hopes and high expectations, and I think they are being met. And I think we have a lot to be proud of as a community. So I'm really pleased to hear what I'm hearing here, and I hope that it is taken with the great good intent that it is met.
Thank you. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd just like to say I admire the spirit of cooperation, and being the town administrator in Bristol, we just completed putting our budget together. There's some very, very tough choices, and we didn't take them lightly, and I can tell you, knowing the community as well as I do, and the office that I sit in, I hear from people coming in when tax bills are due, and knowing that, I hear that side, but at the same time, I fully recognize, especially from a person that attended this school and this building, that our most cherished resource is our children. And one thing I learned since I've taken office, and some people that are much wiser than me, and I just know enough to listen to them, they said, always look at the future, don't be short-sighted and look at the present. And that being said, I think this is reasonable for this year, but most of all, I like the spirit of cooperation, and I think we are stronger together, and I think that the school department is doing a great job. And I look forward to working with the Joint Finance Committee next year, and hopefully, perhaps during the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
Very briefly, I mean, I just wanted to compliment the school department, because there's no question that They have done an outstanding, the administration, Mario, and has done an outstanding job in terms of everything that we hear, that we not only hear at these meetings, but that we read about in the local paper and see if we look at the data online or whatever. So I don't think that anything in terms of the actual, the financial may not meet everything that you're looking for, but we always have lots of tough choices with the positions that we're in. But it is indeed no reflection on the outstanding job that you do. And, many of us will support you in whatever other ways that we can. Many of us were there at the V, like it or not, whether we have to spell or not. And so I just wanted to say that. As far as the relationship with this group, I hope, and I think there's work that needs to be done, there's no doubt about it, and there's trust that needs to be rebuilt.
Okay, well, I'd like to add some comments and then maybe invite others to speak if they choose to. I do agree. A lot of talk about relationships here. Feels like we're back in high school maybe. But I'd like to talk about a few things I heard, and that's look to the future. Funding our schools is important. And I agree. And I do feel that, and I've learned over the past couple of weeks looking at the school budget, that budgeting for the school district is complex, it's difficult. Much different than I thought, budgeting for a business. What we plan for as a business, as far as opportunities, but also risks, we can account for and measure pretty well, I think. In the school system, there's a lot of changes along the way. Some good, funding-wise, some bad. Enrollment, children with special requirements that they need in order to get them the services that they need. And I believe that with the extreme amount of experience from our school committee and administration, that these things are taken into account in a budget which is presented, is put together. And when we don't fully fund, yes, year after year, they make it work, because they have to. But it's not at an expense. And so we sit here not just with 2, but 3 hats on. And my hat as a resident, Bristol resident, looks at the tax rate as well. And the difference between taking action on the motion that has been put forth and fully funding the schools to the Bristol taxpayer that may own a house valued at $350,000. Annually, it'll cost them $53. So it's with that I question why we don't fully fund and open the discussion about the budget, because I do feel that yes, the school system has made it work in the past and they will make it work, but at what expense? To our district, to our children, who we should be looking to the future for, because funding our schools is extremely important. So I'd like to add that.
Can I make a correction, Mr. Chairman? With all due respect, the $300,000 house at the full funding rate, I believe, is $102, and not $53, and that is just on the school aspect and not any other aspect of the municipal budget. So I just wanted to correct that.
Just to clarify, the difference between fully funding and the motion is approximately $53. So I do agree that the total tax increase may near $102 annually, but the difference again between what the motion is and fully funding is a mere $53 annually.
If I could. And being the neighbor to the north, the cooperative neighbor to the north, fully funding would put Warren with our manager's proposed budget at a 4%, which is the state cap. After one council meeting listening to our department heads now that the budget is the responsibility of the council, and taking into account some additional staffing hours that was presented and the proper way of funding those requests, the council is now at a 4.14%. So we're 0.14% over the cap. Again, we take this responsibility seriously, and we did prepare for if this committee were to fund the whole. But we went through the difficult belt tightening that Bristol had to endure a few years back and now. So we no longer look at each other and say, what would you do if it happened to you? We have worn that same shoe on that foot. We know what it's like, and when we understand the other aspect of our job, it makes decisions like this a little bit more palatable. It's not like we're cutting the district this year. We're trying to put ourselves in a position to hopefully continuously support and be able to fund. But make no doubt or mistake about it that Warren is doing its due diligence, but we are at the cap if it were to be fully funded. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. Previously, I stated the word frustration, and that's what I'm starting to feel right now. I just heard comments from all my colleagues of positive forward movement, and it's just frustrating now hearing certain comments. Certainly due diligence, I'm hearing a lot about the municipal budget. We're here as a joint finance committee. We have a responsibility to the school budget. The school administration has always entertained each and every one of us to, if we needed help, but it's our due diligence to dive in just like the school committee and the school department, just like we do with our municipal budget. And this is what I mean about going forward as a joint finance committee, is the way we all work together on our municipal budgets. Maybe we have to dive in a little deeper with the school department into their budget, just as well as the municipal budget. So everyone's on board, on the same page of music going forward, instead of the tit for tat of the comments that are being made. I think if we're going to go forward, we have to go forward. So to that point, I may be out of line, but the little things matter. I know Council Chairman Tiska mentioned about the internship with the coordinator that's added to the budget. Personally, when we added our economic development coordinator, it was an initiative of the town of Bristol that be her #1 priority for the town of Bristol. And it got integrated into our planning department so she can help out with other tasks. Personally, I thought it was a great opportunity of the Economic Development Commission, along with the partnership with Dr. Andre, to formulate that program going forward for an expanded internship. As far as our Economic Development Coordinator, I'm just one person, and I know I haven't spoken to my colleagues, but please, utilize her. She's already in the community with these businesses. And if you need her services, I know for one as a councilman, she's there for you, because I think we need to share our services. We need to be a partnership, if we're going to say we're a partnership, not just separated by, line items and whatnot, because we're one community. So that's just a dialogue going forward. If need be, services like that have to be shared. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Any comments from the audience? Please come on up, and I'd like to encourage you to focus your comments on the motion that's on the floor, as well as if what has been said prior to your ability to come up and speak. It's easy to come up and politely acknowledge that, but do not repeat. We'd like to move efficiently. Thank you. So please state your name. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carla Weish. I am a resident of Bristol, and I wrote my little speech here before I do this. There would be some appropriate discussion to talk about fully funded.
1 minute, and I'm going to get you a mic.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Mr. Silva's going to help with the mic.
It's green.
Green. There you go. Is that better?
Directional.
Oh,
That's
excellent.
better.
Okay, I'll start again. I'll be
Please.
brief. My name is Carla Weish, and I am a resident of Bristol. And as I mentioned briefly, I've written my speech before. I had heard what the committee had to say, but what I wanted to say was about 5 years ago, my family and I chose to move to Bristol. And when we were looking for our home, our realtor said to us, yeah, the schools are pretty good, but you know what everybody does. Everybody stays in town for elementary school, and come middle school and high school, Bristol residents move to Barrington. But I think things are changing. We have excellent new leadership within the district. We have new leadership at KMS and at the high school, and people are choosing to stay. I am proudly sending my son to KMS next year, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to do that. But we have to continue to fund the schools. We have to continue to be able to compete with surrounding communities so that we do not lose our students between elementary school or middle school or high school. And I'm not naive. I know there are very tough calls that need to be made. I understand the budgeting process, sort of, as a resident might. But maybe there are some more creative ways that we can raise tax dollars